So there is this word in the English language called bitch, and it is used to refer to a woman who is being difficult, or I don't even know how to describe it really, but basically it has origins from a female dog. You know, you would call a female dog a bitch. And so the parallel there, I guess, is why it's so offensive, and it's considered an offensive slur. So because of that, I don't like to use that word a lot. Certainly not to refer to a woman. You know, I'll call an inanimate object a bitch. You know, if I stub my toe on a lamp or something, I'll maybe throw around some choice words. Or if I'm in my car, then anything goes, right? Because nobody can hear me. But when it comes to deploying the word against, deploying a slur against the actual subgroup it is intended to refer to is very wrong. I think that you can deploy slurs against people who are not in the subgroup that the slur refers to, and it's funny, but when all of a sudden you start calling, a blank, then you start getting into tricky territory. And so that's why I do want to emphasize that I take this incident, very seriously, because I do think that today I earned the right to say it. Because honestly, you can tell when a person has never, ever, ever been confronted by their behavior, or a person in their life has never stood up to them, and they have gone through life getting anything that they want, basically never being told no. And if someone does give them resistance, then they shut it out completely. Or I don't know, I'm not a therapist, I don't need to psychoanalyze people. All I know is that, working in retail, I can sniff those people out pretty much as soon as they walk in the door. It's funny because you can usually tell when a customer walks in what kind of customer they're going to be. And every time, without fail, that a difficult customer walks in, you can just sense it as soon as they come in through the door. And I'm like, keep an eye out on that one, because I think we're going to have a situation here in just a minute. Because the thing is with those people, they think that they're being mistreated, but really it's just the way that everybody is treated. And because they are being treated the same way as everybody else, that does not match, the way that probably the people in their lives treat them, because they sort of just want them to go away as quickly as possible. So they put protective cushioning around them through everything that they go through in life. Anyway, that doesn't happen when they go to a store, because when you're a customer, it's just like, yeah, you buy something and then I ring you up and then you leave, and the end, right? I don't care about the social ties that my behavior to you is going to affect the rest of our relationship or my family or blah, 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 blah. So I just treat you the same way as I treat anybody else. I say hello. I say goodbye. I say thank you very much. I say have a good day. So I've been working seasonally at Best Buy, which is why I'm wearing this blue shirt. Oh, crap. Eddie, maybe we might want to... No, it'll be all right. It's fine. This is not an ad for Best Buy, by the way. I mean, it's one of those things where Best Buy is so large that I guess it doesn't really matter, because, Best Buy has sort of become... Our lives are controlled in every single way by advertising, and every single thing that we do is tainted by the sludge of capitalism. But anyway, it's very... I guess I should have known during the interview, when I basically got hired as soon as I could prove that I could speak and make critical decisions. That was sort of, I was happy about it because I really need this job to pay for half my rent. But it's sort of the type of thing where seasonal work with a place like a store that really just needs bodies to be there, they just need people to walk around and wear the uniform so that it seems like there's a lot of people in the store, because it's not like really, they have a sort of hierarchy and a corporate structure and a sales bullshit thing. Like every time I go in the morning, they have this spreadsheet that has a bunch of different, all the employees on it, and then and then a bunch of numbers. I don't even know what it means, honestly, but I think it's, how much you've sold, what your commission has been, the percentage of something. And all I know is that every time I walk in the morning, my name is dead last. And it's Dan Henschel, 000%, 0.008, whatever. Because ultimately, I don't need to care. Because at the end of this seasonal run, I can just go get another job somewhere else. It's that is one good thing about the fact that shitty jobs will always be available because nobody wants to do them. Anyway, I have been seeing somebody new, nothing special, honestly, nothing remarkable, but right place at the right time, so fine. And for Thanksgiving, it was sort of I was kind of hoping that because we started dating so recently to Thanksgiving that it was not the amount of time that it was needed to the expectation that I was going to have to go to her family's house for Thanksgiving wouldn't have existed. And I honestly kind of don't think that it has, because I don't know. I think that 4 years is still kind of a gray area, but she basically said, I would really, really love it if you would meet my parents, and my family in one fell swoop, I guess, because she said, well, my whole family's going to be there. It might be a little overwhelming, but I just want you to come around and say hi and be nice and whatever. And so they decided that they were going to do their Thanksgiving celebration on Black Friday instead of Thanksgiving because, I guess, I don't know. But I was kind of honest and I said, well, I've got to work on Black Friday. So, I'm going to be working from like 6 to 8, at 6 a.m. to 6 to 8 p.m. So I'm going to be very tired and I can't make any promises, but I will show up and at least say hello. And that just, God almighty, clouded my whole day, because if I have something to do, it's just a horrible, horrible psychological torture. It really is. And so that becomes that it put me in a bad mood, because I was like, well, at least when I don't have anything to do after work, then I can sort of just think about the fact that I'm going to go home and drink and you know what I'm saying? So all day I'm just thinking, don't worry, Dan, it's all going to be over soon, and you're going to be in outer space, and you're going to be floating away from the planet's surface, and you're going to wave at all these little ants down here, and everything will be forgotten. And that usually is the only thing that gets me through the day, honestly. As a matter of fact, I actually consider my intoxicated existence to be more of my actual life than the sober part, because when I'm sober at my job, I'm just kind of on autopilot, when I am that is when I'm truly alive. That is when I feel like I'm truly utilizing my full potential as a human being. It's kind of like, your brain is like it's in a jar, and it's hooked up to all these electrical nodes, but it's not it's independent of your body and everything. Your brain is just in this pickle jar going crazy. That's what it's kind of like when I'm sitting on my couch and I'm like, you know. Anyway, I can do anything if I know that I can do that afterwards. So the day started, honestly, not that bad. Because Black Friday these days really is not, at least at Best Buy. I can speak for Best Buy. I can't speak for anywhere else, but it's not the end of the world because most people shop online anyway, and nobody really bothers going into the store because why would you? You know, unless you need the thing that day specifically, which is a downside in and of itself, because then that means most of the customers, you know, are coming in with sort of a sense of urgency and a sense of expectation that because they're not buying it online, that somehow morally entitles them to, you know, it's like they're doing community service, charity work, shopping at our store for a product that most likely they are expecting to leave the store with. Otherwise, this entire journey for them was for naught. And so that kind of, it's like there's less customers, but the customers that do come in have a lot higher expectations for how the experience is going to go, and they have a lot more just entitlement. So the customers are worse, but they're fewer. You know, or you get the people who don't bother with online at all, and so they don't understand how the world works in general now, which is a whole different kettle of fish there. But the day did not start that bad. Especially because I'm one of the seasonal employees. So when they interviewed me, they just asked me, well, what kind of electronics do you like? And I was like, what? And I sort of said, well, I guess I like cameras, you know. And so they said, great, you can be in the camera department. And so they put me in, my job is basically I have to walk around the camera department of the Best Buy store and make up stuff. And so people walk around and I'm supposed to go up to them and ask them if they need any help. Almost everybody says no because they want to be left alone, because we live in an individualistic society. And also, the truth is, I'm just going to look it up on my phone anyway if you have a question. So you might as well look it up on your phone and save us both the social interaction that is incredibly taxing. Occasionally, you know, it'll be an old person, or it'll be someone who, like I said, still is stuck in an archaic world where the illusion of customer service was still intact, and the boundaries between our individual subcultures is still erect in a sense. So, you know, they still have a very old-fashioned view of employees and customer service and things like that. So they expect me to be a state-of-the-art expert. They expect me, a seasonal employee of a Best Buy in the middle of Rancho Cucamonga, to be the world's leading expert on camera technology. That's what they honestly think. They honestly believe that, and Best Buy perpetuates this rumor too, you know, but people don't seem to think about the catch-22 of the fact that if I was so fucking smart, I wouldn't have to work at Best Buy as a seasonal employee. So the fact that you expect your employees, and the fact that you as a customer expect that these employees are going to be anything other than prostitutes for weed money is laughable to me. But anyway, they, you know, will ask me a question, and I'll either look it up on my phone or I'll make something up to get them to leave me alone. Either one usually works pretty good. Now there is this commission element, which I don't have to worry about that much as a seasonal employee, but at the same time, it's just like, you know, it My numbers can't be at 0, because otherwise that's just going to make life more difficult for me. I always believe that with whatever job you have, you need to find the least amount of work you have to do before it starts causing material problems for you. So that's a very calculated equation that you have to make. You certainly don't want to do more work than that, because then you're doing free labor and they're going to expect you to do more for the same amount of money, and they're going to rely on you and you're going to become important, which is the absolute worst possible thing that can happen if you work somewhere. You want to be somebody who yes, they need you there, but they don't need you that much. The best thing is to fly completely under their radar. So be good enough that you don't cause any problems, but not good enough that you are, in their eyes, an exceptional employee. You're just, that's Dan. He's fine. I don't know what he does. He's doing his thing. And also, looking busy helps with that a lot. If you I walk very fast. So a lot of times what I do is I huff around the whole store and just walk around in circles, or I invent places to go. So I'll huff over to the back room, and then scroll on my phone a little bit in the corner and then huff back out, and that sort of thing. It's almost like I look at it as sort of like a character work, as an actor. It's kind of like, actually it did give me good acting experience for sort of blocking, trying to think, what would my motivation be in this hypothetical situation? So I'll think, maybe a customer asked me to go to the back room and look and see if they have something, and then I have to come back and tell them that I don't. What would my face look like if I was doing that? How would I conduct my body language if I was doing that? How would I walk around the store? What decisions would I choose to make when I get to the back room? Would I go like, oh my gosh, it's not here, and put my hand on my head? or would I go like, and put my hands on my waist like that? Those sorts of questions that I find very interesting when it comes to acting. But I was doing all of this, and the unthinkable happened, because it started to get very busy at the cashier section, the checkout. And so sometimes when that happens, they will ask me to sort of hop on a register, and just move the line along. They don't seem to care that I have not been trained on the register. They don't seem to care that I have no idea what I'm doing. Again, it's just one of those things where it's like they just need you to be a body to move the other bodies, So they said, why don't you hop on the online pickup, register. Now, here's the thing about being a retail employee for a large corporation. You are put in an impossible situation, because you are basically a part of this corporation's Einsatzgruppen, the frontline employees that they are making do their dirty work and enforce these completely arcane, ridiculous rules and structures and practices that these cushy fuckers sit in their bed with their laptops open on remote work and type up these random bullshit rules, because they don't do anything. They just sit there all day, and so their mind starts to go all crazy and wander and want to type an email that is insane. And because of that, the decisions that people in those positions make trickle down to us, that we then have to enforce with our bodies and with our actual labor, which they wouldn't know a thing about. If the corporate people had to come down here and they had to work for one day as a employee on the retail side, they would completely change everything about the way that their lives work. Hopefully they would jump off a bridge, because they probably wouldn't have the mental fortitude. I probably shouldn't say that. Eddie, take that out. But no, I just, I mean, honestly, a lot of times with customers, I sort of understand their perspective, because the way that they have us do things is stupid. And it doesn't make any sense, and it is frustrating. I understand that. Now, what I don't understand is you kind of blaming it on me. I understand if you walk into a place and the guy behind the register says, "Hey, you fucktard," then yeah, you could probably make a complaint to the management. I would like to know the full side of the story, but at the same time, yeah, that's questionable, right? But if the employee is saying, "I'm so sorry, this is just the way that it has to be, I'm trying to help you, but this is everything," and then you're still making it difficult for them because you are taking out not only all of your frustration at the company, but also all of your impotent rage at the fact that in life, nobody respects you and nobody takes you seriously and you have no power. So the fact that you are in a position of power as a customer, you start getting off to it, and you treat me badly as sort of retribution for everybody that ever has crossed paths with you in your entire life. That's when it becomes a problem. And I think ultimately, a customer is a subclass of human. A customer really is, when you are a customer, you are not the same as when you're on the street or when you're meeting, in your home. You assume a role, right? You are fulfilling a type of person. Just like I was saying about acting. It's like when you're a customer, you go into a store, with the expectation that you're going to buy something, and you sort of, you are not behaving in the same way. I mean, we all behave differently in whatever situation that we're in, but when specifically, that's sort of how I justify my hatred of all customers, because I really do hate all of them. It doesn't even matter. I mean, it's great if you're nice, but I hate you just the same as any other person who has walked into the store just because you're a customer. I mean, and it's nothing personal. If I met you at the club, then maybe there would be a different story. But because we're meeting in this context, customer to employee, retail worker role, I don't like you because you're annoying. Because you are the reason why I can't be at home jerking off and smoking weed. So, what you have to understand is, sometimes when people are nice, it's more annoying. Because then it's like, what do you expect me to do? Do you really think so less of me that you think you're going to come in here with your Humpty Dumpty attitude and save my whole day? Thanks a lot. You are still handing me your credit card like a dipshit. You are still going like this because you don't know how the tap card works. Just like anybody else. So don't act like you're better than everybody else and that I should treat you with more respect because you're nice. Anyway. The perfect customer in my mind is neutral and fast. The perfect customer knows what they want. They don't try to make small talk. They come in, they give me the thing, I say hello, they say hello, I say how are you, they say good, how are you. Scan the object, and the item. I say that'll be $24.99. Customer says, boop, with their card, wordlessly. I say, do you want a receipt? They say no. See you later. That's the perfect customer to me. And an additional thing in that situation with Best Buy is that it's almost like Best Buy specifically programs their POS service. POS is what they call the register, by the way, if you're a privileged, spoiled brat and you've never had to work in retail. It's almost like they design that interface specifically to make customers upset with us, because it's 10 screens at least that ask them a ridiculous question about, do you want to sign up for the Best Buy rewards? Do you want to sign up for a Best Buy credit card? Do you want to sign up for the Best Buy, 0.5 APR, bullshit? Do you want to make a donation to St. Jude's hospital for pussies? You know, all of these questions that nobody ever answers yes to. But that is the only, again, we are supposed to sell people on this scam credit card. Well, so that's why I don't even bother with it. I'm just like, a lot of times when they ask me to hop on the register, I just skip all those for the customer, you know. So I just say, they'll say, do I put my card? And I say, just hang on a minute. Boop, 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 boop. I skip every single question. I say, there you go. I give it to the screen. That's how it should work, you know. And I've tried to tell my manager that many, many times, but she just says, yeah, well, that's just the way that it is. It's like, okay, great. Well, I guess we'll just live in this shithole forever then, because nobody wants to actually take initiative to change anything. Because it's all just a scaffolding of misery and learned helplessness that we all live in. So anyway, I went up to the online pickup line, and I said, I can help the next online pickup right here. Put my hand up like this. So this very, very nice, sweet, older couple walks up to me. And they don't speak English very well, but they're nice, which is another perfect. I would say that's probably the ideal customer. That's the perfect customer right there, because I don't have to talk to them, but all they do is sort of go like, yeah, you know, and are kindly, and they just are like, I don't know, you just do this, you know. So it's really not a lot of work. They showed me their, you know, thing, and as I was helping them out, I knew she was going to be a problem as soon as I saw her in line. As soon as I saw the way that she was standing in line and conducting herself, I was like, this is going to be a ball buster. And, you know, my attention was split. So I was, I couldn't hear most of what was going on, but all of a sudden I started to sense conflict. And I started to sense tension. And the first thing that I could hear was, so you mean that I've been standing in line for 10 minutes and now I have to go stand in another line for 10 minutes? Instantly, I knew what happened. Because the way that Best Buy works is when you have an online pickup order, you have to line up in the online pickup line. You cannot line up in the regular checkout line because that messes everything up. And it's not our fault. They make it so that it messes everything up for some reason. I don't know why they can't just make it easy for us. But if you, not only that, and again, it is stupid, yes, but if you have an online pickup at Best Buy, you have to get in the online pickup line, and you have to go on your phone, and you have to check in for your online pickup. You cannot just go in the line and come up to the register and then show us the phone that is your confirmation email. You have to go into the email and you have to click check in. You have to click the button that says, I am here and I am in line. And you have to follow through to the next 3 screens until it gives you the barcode. I don't know why they make us do it like that, but they do. Almost nobody understands that process. Almost nobody does it correctly. And they all get very frustrated because in theory, right, picking up an online order should be very easy. In theory, yes, you should be able to just go into the store and you should be able to say, I ordered a Bing Bong. And they should be able to say, oh, here you go. Here's your Bing Bong. That'll be Bing Bong dollars. But unfortunately, that's not the way that it works anymore. That's not my fault. Okay? So please make this easy for both of us. And please take the initiative to, as a customer, follow simple instructions. Because if you, here's where my sympathy for the customer ends. When they believe that being a customer means that you need to apply no critical thinking skills at all, and you need to not put any effort in to do anything at all. They believe that if you're a customer, you should be carried around in a chariot by all of the employees at the store. And when you get out of your chariot, there should be a person there holding grapes that they put in your mouth. And there should be a person who puts their coat on the dirt so that when you step out, you don't have to step on the dirt. Ideally, it's somewhere in between the two things, right? So yeah, I'm going to make this easy for both of us, but you have to do your part of the bargain. Please, please. Because I don't want to be here either. I don't know why people, it's like they think that I get sometimes I do actually enjoy upsetting people if they've been difficult, but most of the time, I don't understand why people seem to think that I want to be here. I don't, honestly, you know what it is? I don't think they think about my interiority at all. I don't think that I'm a person to them, and that's fine, because you're not a person to me either. You're a customer. Hard R customer. So I heard the woman saying, you mean to tell me I gotta get back in the line? And I saw my other coworker being sort of apologetic, and sort of going into crisis mode. Thank the Lord, there were not a lot of people in the new online line. So she got behind, there was the nice old couple, and behind them was some guy. I don't know. And another great ideal of a customer, an anonymous guy who I don't think about at all. And she was looking fierce. And I don't mean that in the, she was fierce. I mean, she was looking like a very angry leopard. And so I, am not perfect. I sometimes give in to impulses that are not pure, So sometimes I will confess, I will intentionally make the person wait longer because I think it's funny to make them angry. And it's just one of those things that it's like a pressure release valve, Obviously, I don't treat them outright with disrespect, but I don't go out of my way to help them, I don't go out of my way to make anything easier for them, basically. So I decided that I was going to, for once, do my job with this nice elderly couple who didn't speak English. And I decided that I was going to go through each individual prompt on the POS system with them in detail and ask them if they would like yes or no to sign up for the Best Buy Rewards card, sign up for the Best Buy credit card, donate to St. Jude's Children's Hospital, all of these things. Because I don't know why, I just enjoyed seeing that woman get even more upset. I loved it. And maybe that's, that's because I'm trying to exercise the only amount of power that I have in this world, But I was explaining, and, funny enough, they had no clue what the hell I was talking about, just like I said. So I took my sweet old time, and I explained the structure of our Best Buy credit card to them in detail. And they said, yes, I would like to sign up. So I said, great! And I got out a piece of paper that they had to fill out right there. And I went through each and every single little thing, little box. And I did at one point, I waved to the woman in the back and I said, thanks for waiting. I'll be right with you in a minute. I think that made her even more angry. So, finally, the old couple, I said goodbye, and they said, oh, and left. That was not supposed to be any kind of, can I just clarify here that yes, I said they didn't speak English, but I did not clarify what they were. So, I just don't want people thinking to get the idea that I'm doing some kind of impression of a certain group. Okay? So finally, the anonymous guy left, and I don't blame him. I would have done the same thing. But now this has become a moral, what do you call it? A crusade for this woman. And she gets up, doesn't say hi, doesn't say how's your day. She just shows me the phone with the email on it. And I said, what is this? And she said, I had an online order. And I say, okay, what am I reading here? And she says, this is my online order. I had an online order. And I said, okay, do you see the big button right here in yellow with giant text that says, press this if you have an online order and you're in line to redeem your online order? And she says, huh? And she puts on her glasses, and I say, ma'am, give me your phone. And she says, well, hang on a minute. And I say, well, because if you want me to do this, then give me your phone. I didn't say it like that, but I said it like that inside. And she said, I've been waiting 20 minutes. And I said, well, did you see the giant sign when you walked in that said, if you have an online order, go in this line and not that line? Because you went in the other line with the giant sign that says, if you have an online order, don't go in this line, or you're going to have to wait 20 minutes. But, of course, like I said, she doesn't view me as a human being, and so she doesn't process my interiority. She doesn't think that I can have a perspective on anything. She doesn't think that I can provide her any information of value other than the service which she is asking to be performed on her, for her. Now at this point, I'm just thinking, okay, fine. That's fine. Let's just get this lady's bullshit and move on with this whole thing. So I take her phone and I press the button. I press the other button and I press the other button. And I will admit it's annoying, the process. See the barcode, and I scan the barcode into the computer. And the worst possible case scenario, I get an error message. So I say, please God, please God, please God. And I scan it again, but still nothing. And so now I have to say to this woman, I'm not seeing anything here. Great. So I stall for a couple seconds and I pretend like I am looking for something on the computer, even though I am really just trying to kick the ball a little further down the court and buy myself some time before I have to erupt Mount Vesuvius. And I say, and I do this. I go, it's not showing up here. And she says, well, I ordered it. And I say, okay, well, would you mind pulling up the confirmation email again? And she says, okay, sure. She pulls up the confirmation email and I check the location and she ordered this item from a Best Buy that is 60 miles away from the one that she's currently in. So I say, ma'am, this order was placed for the Pasadena store. That's very far from here. And she says, what? And I say, so you're in the wrong store, basically. And the thing about working in retail is that you can't say anything that's too sharp. So a lot of times you can't just directly say the thing. You can't just be like, you are in the wrong store. You have to sort of lube it up a little bit. So you have to say, well, it appears as though this transaction was processed for a different location, so that it sort of goes down easier. Because for some reason, if you just say, this is the wrong store, like that, then it's like you're sort of shoving a blunt object up there or in there, and so I try to say very delicately, this is the Pasadena location, not here. And she didn't really understand why that was a problem. So I had to explain that when you order something from a store, that means that that store is a different place than this place. It is two separate places. So if you are in one place, you are not in the other place. If you want to go to the other place, you have to go to that place and not this place. A very simple concept that babies can understand. So she says, well, can you just get me one from here? And I say, sure, but I'm going to have to charge your card again and refund the original charge because your card has already been charged. Then she starts going into a whole thing. She's like, well, I ordered with $200 and I don't have my card. So I said, okay, all right. Then this is a very, very easy problem to solve. Just go to the other store where you should have gone in the first place. Or better yet, read what you're fucking clicking on. I didn't say that. But I said, well, ma'am, I don't understand. I'm not a wizard. I don't understand what you expect me to fix for you here. She said, God, give me them. So I say, all right, okay. I'll tell you what, here's what I'll try. Why don't we try to refund the charge to your card first, and then hopefully we can, when we charge your card again, it will have been quick enough in your credit card company that we can do the transaction again. So I refund the original purchase. I take her card and she's like, what do you need my card for? And I said, because I have to refund it. In order to refund it, I have to put the card into the POS system, like it is charging it, but it's not. It is refunding it. Your card is not being charged for anything. You are getting money back. And she's like, well, I just want a refund. I don't want to pay for anything yet. I said, I know that. I am refunding your card, and in order to refund your card, I have to put it in the card thing. You are not being charged for another purchase. You are being refunded. I say, please understand. Finally, she relents. She puts her card in the thing. And everything goes fine, thank God. It refunds the original charge. And I say, okay, now let's do your transaction again for this store. And then I can go. By the way, I am going way out of my way to help this woman. I don't have to do this, but I know that she's just going to cause a problem for me specifically, no matter what I do. Because now I am the monument to her rage. You know, I am sort of the target that her homing missiles have locked on. So even if I say, okay, blah, 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 you can go get, you're going to have to go to the regular checkout line again. She's still going to make my life hell. So I have to see this through to the end, unfortunately. So I say, okay. Let's do the transaction again. So I take her phone and I type in the SKU number, which is the unique product identification number. And I type it into our system so that I can go get her product that she wants and get her out of here. And I type in the SKU number. God damn it. And it says 0 in stock at this location. So we don't have it. And I already refunded her other one. And at this point, I will be honest, I am sort of starting to feel myself beginning to cry. Because, and you know what? Maybe it was my mistake. Maybe I should have thought about that earlier. But I look at the computer for a very long time because I'm hoping that maybe magically what is happening right now will stop happening for some reason. Or I'm hoping that maybe if I just look at it long enough, then it will change. Or I'm hoping that maybe a meteor will come from outer space and crash into the store and kill all of us. So I wait 5 seconds. And she says, is everything all right? No meteor. So I say, ma'am, I'm so sorry. And I actually do mean it in this instance. I'm so sorry. This item, and it hurts to even say it out loud, this item is not in stock at this location. And she's like, huh? Not, and the way that I did that was much more polite and kind than the way that she did it with hers. It was just like, it didn't register either way. And she tried to hand me her card and say, here you go. And I said, no, ma'am. Ma'am, we don't have it in stock at the store, so we cannot sell you this item. And in a way, I was kind of relieved because now my problem is over. Because I have been confronted by an act of God, that has relinquished any responsibility that I have to continue this woman's experience besides maybe the responsibility that I have towards Best Buy as a corporation. But in general, it's like, it's not at the store. So you have to either go to the other store. I don't know. You can go to Circuit City if you want, but we don't have it here. So go fuck yourself. Order it on Amazon like everybody else. But it's another classic case of she doesn't seem to understand a very, 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 very simple concept. Again, because maybe nobody's ever told her no before. So, so she says, well, what do you mean? Why would you tell me that you had it if you don't have it? And I said, you're right. You're right. I shouldn't have done that. If I made a mistake in this situation, it was that I should have checked that first. But, fine. I made a mistake. Fine. But sometimes that happens when you're a human being. And the only way that people expect you to not make mistakes is if you're Jesus Christ himself, which I am not. So I say, all right, please just listen to me. Here is what we have to do. You can either, and I straight up said, you can order this on Amazon if you want, very easily, and it'll go straight to your house. It'll go right to your front door. You don't have to leave. You can just open, pick up the item, take it inside. But she says, no, well, I need it today. I need it by this afternoon. So I said, okay. Well, then we're going to have to process your original transaction from the other location again. So we'll order you the same thing that you had before from the location that you were originally supposed to go to. And if you had gone to, none of this would have happened. And then you are going to have to, if you want everything to be the way that you want, then you have to accept that one of the things is not going to be the thing that you want. So right now you want 3 things in a world where at any given time you can only have 2 things. So you are in a situation now where either you can get the item on time, or you can get it conveniently, or you cannot be a fucking dumbass. Pick 2. And clearly you're not capable of the third one. Didn't say any of this. I just said, okay. So I said, can I take your card again? And she said, why do you need my card again? And at this point, I started smoking when I started working at Best Buy so that I would have an excuse to leave every 10 minutes and get a break. So I am running way overdue. I have already done more work in the past 10 minutes than I've done this entire 4 weeks that I've worked here combined. So this is already above my pay grade. And I'll be honest with you, I made a mental calculation. And I said, okay, if I get fired right now, do I have enough money to last until I can get another job? And the answer was no. So the next question I asked was, how satisfying it would be to tell this woman off, does that pleasure outweigh the stress of not having sustainable income? I'm sure I'll be able to figure something out, but what is the emotional calculation there? And ultimately, I said, you know what? Fuck it. And I made sure to smile real wide like this for the camera, that it was filming me from every single direction in every way. I make sure that my radio's turned off. And I lean in close and I say, can I tell you something? You're a fucking stupid bitch. And she says, excuse me? And I said, yeah, you are a dumb bitch. I have already seen enough about you in this very, very tiny interaction to know that everybody in your life hates you. And if they don't hate you, they put up with you and they appease you for long enough that you can minimize the damage that you will do to their lives. And God help you if you have kids. God help you if you have a fucking husband. But as soon as they are able to put you in a fucking nursing home with the other old bitches who nobody loved enough, that will be the happiest day of their lives. And the only time that anyone will ever feel at peace in your company will be when they are at your grave. And I walked out of the fucking store. The loss prevention guy was like, hey, Dan, where are you going? And I said, see you later. Got in my car, closed the door, sparked up a fucking doob, put in my headphones, You know what? I'm going to die someday anyway. And life is very short. We don't get a lot of moments like this to enjoy. And I am going to be holding on to that woman's shocked expression as the whole ground crumbled beneath her feet forever. The amount of money that I lost by not working here for another 2 weeks of my seasonal job, I would have paid that much for that experience. It was well worth it. If I could live in that moment in my car, listening to Maggot Brain, kicking my feet up on the dash, car filling with smoke. If I could live in that moment the rest of my life, I would. And I try to, believe me. And I see all the way, because I like to park in the very, 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 very back of the parking lot so that I have time when I get there to walk and just delay the process of starting my horrible shift even further. So I see, she can't see me, but I see her all the way over, coming out of the, over to her car. And I see her get in, and she drives away. So I'm like, hell yeah. Check my phone and I check the time, and I've got 2 hours now before I have to be over my fucking stupid girlfriend's house. So I don't want to tell her that, obviously, because I would like to have 2 hours where that I had to completely destroy my entire life in order to earn a free time. So also I'm realizing now that I am, so I gotta sort of walk it off a little bit, because I'll go to a place when I did that, an hour or so ago. Walking straight in from your car is excessive, So I'm like, oh, this is great. I can go for a nice little walk at the park, enjoy my day a little bit, decompress, walk this off, and then I can go to. Hopefully, I will still be riding this high, literally and figuratively speaking, by the time it's time to go over there for dinner. So I go to the park, just walk around. It's a beautiful day because it's California in November, so it's perfect. I text my girlfriend and I say, hey, I'm going to be getting off in about, 45 minutes or whatever it is, which was a lie. But I wanted to I was trying to think about, in a normal day, if everything had gone according to plan, I probably would have been about 30 minutes late. So I was like, yeah, I'll be there. I'll be about 15 minutes late. And she says, okay, see you soon. And it was a little strange, the way that she said it, and sometimes it's not even a thing where it's like you can tell. I just think that people, we're very good at reading body language, and we're very good at, sort of picking up on cues, and I think that does even extend into text messaging. And sometimes in your car, I don't know if you noticed that, but when you're driving, I can tell when somebody's going to try to do an erratic lane change. I can tell when they're thinking about it. And my passengers are always like, how did you know that person was going to do it? I was like, well, I can sense when somebody's thinking about it. So I just sensed that something was a little strange. And I was like, is everything all right? And she says, yeah, sorry, I'm just dealing with something, very cryptically. So I was like, oh, all right, well, whatever, as long as it doesn't concern me, I don't give a fuck. So I say, whatever, see you soon. And I say, well, I should probably, since I have a little bit more time to kill, maybe I can go pick up some wine. I don't know, whenever I'm going over a real adult's house, I like to bring some kind of fancy wine or something, or, now, I can't buy anything that fancy, but the effort, I find, is appreciated, So, I pick up some wine and I drive over to my girlfriend's house. Walk up to the door. I'm here. And she gets to the door and she says, hi. And she's being kind of quiet. So I'm like, is everything okay? What's going on? And she says, I'm sorry, my mom is really upset. Something happened when she was at Best Buy earlier. I don't know exactly. She hasn't been very specific, but I think some guy yelled at her or something, or she was in some kind of altercation. And I was like, oh, really? That's horrible. And there is a split second where I honestly do think maybe this is a complete coincidence. Maybe there's something else happened at a Best Buy. There's plenty of middle-aged women in the world. Maybe this is not what's happening right now. Maybe there's a 0.00013% chance that this is not happening. Again, I go back to my meteor thing. So I say, can I use your bathroom? She said, yeah, go ahead. So I go in the bathroom, and I wait there again to see if maybe a meteor will crash into the house, to see if maybe I'll have a heart attack, to see if maybe just somehow this is not happening right now. And I start weighing again, doing another calculation. How important is this relationship to me, really? You know, could I just leave? And I think, I mean, that might be my only option. My only option might be to just get in my car, drive away, ghost her. You know. Then I start to think maybe she won't recognize me. You know, I just... So I get out of the bathroom, and I can hear them in the other room, you know, and my girlfriend's going, oh, mama. I can't hear what they're saying, but I hear the general tone of the conversation. So I text my girlfriend, I say, can I talk to you for a minute? And she says, sure. Comes in. And I say, I don't think this is working. And she's like, what? I say, I just don't think that, I just don't, you know, I don't think I'm ready for a relationship right now. And she says, are you serious? And I say, yeah, I'm really, really sorry. I'm really sorry. See you later. Walk out of the house, go in my car, start the car, drive away down to the strip mall. So I'm sitting in the parking lot, and I get an idea. There's a Halloween store in the strip mall. So I quickly call my girlfriend back. And I say, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean that. It's just that I am transitioning. And it would mean a lot to me if I could present as female to your family this evening. And I was afraid to tell you. I was afraid you would be upset. And so she says, oh my gosh, no, you know, of course, that's fine, you know, absolutely, you know. It's a lot to process, but sure, fine. Just, and I say, okay, great. I'm so sorry again. I'll be there in about 5 minutes. So I go into the Halloween store, you know, and I find a nurse outfit that has a wig that's fine. That's really all I need is a wig. You know, and glasses. So I ended up spending $150 because I needed to get a nurse costume and a Harry Potter costume. And so I had the wig and the Harry Potter glasses. And I figure, all right, this will be fine. So I go back to the house. And I go in and I say hi, you know, and my girlfriend's very supportive, and she says, oh my gosh, this is so great, you know, I'm so happy for you, you know, I just want you to be happy. I'm like, yeah, whatever, let's just get this over with. So I say, so is everything all right? What's going on with your mom? And her mom comes in and she is crying, completely red in the face. Her makeup is all run down. And she can barely speak. And she's like, oh, wow, it's so nice to meet you. You know, and she hugs me very, very warmly. And she says, I'm so sorry. I just was screamed at and called a bitch by Best Buy cashier. And I don't know what I did wrong. Oh, I don't know. You know, and she starts sort of falling apart. You know. And I'm like, fucking shit. So I'm also trying to sort of disguise my voice a little bit because I'm right now it seems like she's a little too upset to understand what's going on. So I say, oh my gosh, that's terrible. And I'm kind of trying to keep my voice at a whisper, you know, and change my mannerisms, you know. So I say, oh, that is so awful. Oh my God. And she said, I'm so sorry that you have to be here to see me like this. I've been, struggling a lot. And, you know. So then I started to feel bad. You know. Because ultimately, I guess, I don't know. I mean, I'm just, you know, this is the worst thing ever when you're forced to deal with the consequences of your actions. Something that I was not expecting to have to do. So I say, you know what? And I take the wig off and reveal my bald head. And I take the glasses off. And I say, ma'am, I'm so sorry. That was me. And my girlfriend doesn't really understand what's going on. She's very confused. The mom is sort of like, and I say, okay, I get it. I understand this is probably a lot to process right now. What I want to say is, I am very sorry because I am an extremely negative person. I have a lot of depression. And I have built up resentment inside of me because of all of the things I have not been able to do in my life. And that has caused me to become a very bitter person. And unfortunately, you were in the wrong place at the wrong time. And I am so sorry. Because I didn't view you as a person either. And she said, what? And I said, I'm the guy from the Best Buy. I'm the guy who yelled at you at the Best Buy. And then my girlfriend, I think, puts it together finally. You know, it's on Any Day Now, Sister. 2025 short film by Dan Hetchel, available now on YouTube. And she says, maybe we should do this another night. And I'm like, yeah. So I take my Harry Potter glasses and my wig and I go in the car. And I think about what a piece of shit I am. Haven't heard from her all day. So. Ultimately, this is Best Buy's fault. Because if they did not put both of us in this situation, and I sent my girlfriend a very, very long text when I thought more about it, and I said, here's what you can tell your mom. These corporations put us in an impossible position, both the customer and the cashier. You know? And it's not either of our fault, though I will admit maybe the language was excessive and the venom that I spewed at this person who I had no idea anything about her life or her background or whatever. Because honestly, you know, when I think back about it, I'm like, she wasn't that mean. It's just that I projected onto her all of my resentment towards other customers and my life in general and my hatred of myself. And I used her as a punching bag. Now I'm going to go home and get drunk as fuck.